Imagine this. Chinese military drills circling closer and closer to an island, while the U.S. rapidly ramps up its military presence and commitments in the same region.
Hmm.
This isn't a scene from some blockbuster movie, it's the daily reality for Taiwan.
Yeah, it's pretty
It's a
intense.
paradox, really. A small island nation, home to just 23 million people, yet it finds itself smack in the middle of an escalating rivalry between two global superpowers.
It's truly a flashpoint.
Mm.
And understanding why this island commands such intense focus from both Beijing and Washington as well. It's absolutely crucial.
Right.
This isn't just about geopolitics. It's about global trade, technological supremacy, and the very future of international order.
And that's exactly our mission today. We're taking a deep dive into why China and the U.S. are so obsessed with Taiwan.
Hmm.
Our goal is to give you, our listener, a comprehensive, clear, and hopefully engaging understanding of the multifaceted reasons behind this obsession. We want you to grasp the full, profound global significance of this island, far beyond just the headlines.
Absolutely. We'll peel back the layers, looking at Taiwan's critical geography, Beijing's deep-rooted historical claims, Washington's security and economic interests, the indispensable role of its chip industry.
And the evolving military balance, too.
Right, and the military balance.
We'll also delve into the intricate political landscapes on all sides. Taiwan itself, mainland China, and the U.S. analyze precisely why tensions are, well, soaring right now, and critically, what measures might actually avert disaster.
And we're drawing from a stack of recent authoritative sources for this. Reports from AP News, the Institute for the Study of War, AEI, the Global Taiwan Institute, insights from DW News. So, solid stuff.
Definitely. So let's get right into it. #1, brief overview. Okay, to really understand the immense pressure on Taiwan, I think we have to start with its physical location.
Absolutely.
This island might be small, but its position is profoundly pivotal. Let's call this the stakes in one island.
Taiwan is so much more than just an island. It's a truly critical piece of geopolitical real estate. It fundamentally shapes military access and global trade across the entire Western Pacific. Think of it as maybe a central switch in a vast, interconnected global network.
Okay, central switch. So, to put it into perspective for you, Taiwan, with its 23 million inhabitants, sits just 130 kilometers. That's about 80 miles off China's mainland coast.
Tiny distance, really.
And it even controls tiny islands, like Kinmen, that are even closer. So it has a much more immediate presence right on China's doorstep than people might realize.
And what's particularly striking about its location is its role as the keystone. That's the term strategists use. The keystone of the first island chain.
Right, I've heard that term.
Yeah, this chain is basically a series of territories stretching from Japan down through South Korea, past Taiwan, and into the Philippines. And this isn't just a line on a map. It critically influences military movement, power projection, everything throughout Asia. If you control Taiwan, you effectively hold immense influence over that entire chain. You impact who can access the open Pacific.
So we're talking about some truly vital strategic choke points here.
Absolutely critical.
To Taiwan's immediate west, you have the Taiwan Strait. That's a major international trade artery, right? Almost all the world's largest container ships pass through there.
Every day. Billions of dollars in trade.
Then, to the north, there's the Miyako Strait, nestled between Taiwan and Japan's Ryukyu Islands.
Yep.
And finally, to the south, the Bashi Strait, situated between Taiwan and the Philippines.
And for both China and the U.S., these aren't just bodies of water. They are key strategic gateways to the broader Pacific Ocean.
Gateways.
Control, or even just significant influence over these straits, it dramatically shifts the regional balance of power.
Yeah.
It dictates everything from trade routes to naval deployments. It impacts stability, influence, everything across the whole Indo-Pacific.
Okay, so that analogy you use, the central switch in a vital global railway network,
Yeah.
that really hits home. Whoever controls that switch dictates the flow of traffic, whether it's commercial goods, there's huge container ships, or critical military movements. It's that foundational.
It really is.
Yeah.
Or, another way to maybe visualize it, think of it like a pivotal control tower overlooking a super busy international airport.
Okay.
Whoever controls that tower has immense influence over all the air traffic, impacting everyone's flight plans, their ability to operate freely and effectively in that whole airspace.
Makes sense. So this vital location means Taiwan has these deep historical roots for both superpowers, intertwining them in this complex and often volatile dynamic.
Exactly. Which leads us perfectly into why Beijing specifically sees Taiwan as so incredibly critical. #2 notable cases.
All right, let's delve right into the core of China's perspective. Beijing's unfinished business. This really gets to the heart of why Beijing cares.
Yeah, and for China, Taiwan transcends just, strategic value.
Yeah.
It's profoundly interwoven with national identity, a deep-seated historical grievance, and maybe most importantly, the very legitimacy of the ruling Communist Party.
So it's existential for them.
In many ways, yes. It's not just political, it's existential and deeply emotional, too.
This intense tension, it really stems from the Chinese Civil War back in the late 1940s, right?
That's the origin, yeah. The communists won on the mainland, establishing the People's Republic of China, the PRC. The nationalist government, the Republic of China, or ROC, they fled across that narrow strait to Taiwan.
Mm-hmm.
So from Beijing's perspective, Taiwan's unification isn't just a goal, it's the unfinished business of that civil war, a historical imperative that, in their view, must be completed.
And this is the foundation for the One China principle.
Exactly. The PRC asserts that there is only one China, and Taiwan is an inalienable breakaway province.
Right.
But what many outside observers maybe miss or don't quite grasp is that the PRC government has never actually ruled Taiwan.
That's a key point.
It is. This historical disconnect, this gap between their claim and actual governance, it fuels so much of the modern tension and the really different perspectives we see.
And then there's that incredibly powerful narrative, the century of humiliation.
Oh, yeah. Hugely influential.
That deeply influences Chinese state ideology. So from the mid-19th to mid-20th century, China faced, significant foreign invasions, internal strife.
The lost territory.
And Taiwan itself was lost to Japan in 1895 during this period.
Right. And President Xi Jinping explicitly views bringing Taiwan back as a crucial step in what he calls national rejuvenation, and profoundly in overcoming this historical humiliation. It's a narrative that resonates deeply inside China. It connects the current situation to a past many Chinese feel compelled to rectify.
Okay, so history, identity. But what about the purely strategic angle?
Or from a military perspective, a Taiwan that stays aligned with the U.S. acts as a major operational constraint on China's Navy and Air Force.
How so?
It effectively blocks their direct, easy access to the Pacific Ocean. Like a giant cork in a really important bottle, you could say.
A cork, okay.
Conversely, a Taiwan under PRC control, that would swing open the gateway to the Pacific. It would make it exponentially easier for China to project power way beyond its immediate coastline. Victor Gao, a former Chinese diplomat, he put it quite starkly. He said, Taiwan interrupts the continuity of the Chinese coastline and also prevents the Chinese access directly to the Pacific Ocean if it's occupied by a foreign power. A very clear strategic assessment.
That's a powerful visual, the strategic cork, but it also makes me wonder, and maybe for you listening too, how have these historical narratives, both from the CCP in Beijing and from the Taiwanese people themselves, how have they genuinely evolved over the decades?
Good question.
And how do these diverging narratives fuel the political and military stances we see playing out right now? That feels like a significant ongoing knowledge gap, doesn't it? How these stories shape perceptions on both sides.
It's an excellent question. And it highlights how historical interpretation directly impacts current policy and actions. It's not static.
Right.
So while Beijing's motivations are deeply historical, nationalistic, Washington's interest in Taiwan is rooted in a very different set of contemporary concerns, security, economics, norms.
Okay, let's shift focus then. All right, let's turn our attention to the U.S. side now, with Washington's credibility and global order, unpacking why Washington cares.
Simply put, the U.S. sees its engagement with Taiwan as absolutely vital. Vital for maintaining its credibility among key allies, for safeguarding its huge economic interests, and for upholding international norms.
So foundational for its role in the region.
Foundational, exactly. For its role and influence in the Indo-Pacific and, you could argue, globally.
Here's where the implications get really stark, I think. If deterrence failed in Taiwan, if China actually invaded and took control, wouldn't that just potentially catastrophically undermine U.S. alliances across Asia, Japan, the Philippines?
Absolutely. These allies would undoubtedly question the U.S.'s reliability for their own security. They'd see a failure of commitment. It would be a monumental blow to U.S. leadership, its strategic standing.
And this ties directly into that first island chain strategy we mentioned.
It does. David Sachs, an expert at the Council on Foreign Relations, he describes Taiwan as sitting at the heart of what we call the first island chain.
Right at the heart.
And this chain, remember, isn't just geography. It's also formal treaty allies or close partners like Taiwan.
Yeah.
Its existence allows the U.S. to project power close to China's shores. protect its interests. And crucially, it makes it really difficult for the Chinese military to project power beyond this chain, to threaten the U.S. homeland or its wider interests.
Okay, beyond the military strategy, the economic and technological stakes are just enormous.
Unbelievably high.
Taiwan's advanced semiconductor industry, we definitely need to dive deeper into this later. It's fundamental for the entire global economy, including the U.S.
Yep.
The disruption there, it would send shockwaves worldwide, affecting everything from your phone to fighter jets to data centers.
It touches almost everything digital. And this situation also brings up that crucial question about the rules-based order. The U.S. argues that any coercive change to Taiwan's status quo, like a forceful takeover by Beijing, would significantly weaken this broader international framework, the one that values self-determination, peaceful resolution of disputes.
So it sets a bad precedent.
A dangerous precedent, in Washington's view. It could embolden other authoritarian states, basically signaling that might makes right.
This brings us to a really fascinating and maybe often misunderstood part of U.S. policy, strategic ambiguity.
Ah, yes, the tightrope walk.
Right. So since the 1970s, the U.S. officially acknowledges Beijing's One China policy, which, just to clarify for everyone listening, means it acknowledges Beijing's claim over Taiwan but doesn't endorse it. And it doesn't recognize Taiwan as independent.
It's a very fine line.
It is.
So,
But at the same time, the U.S. keeps robust informal ties and sells Taiwan defensive weapons.
under the Taiwan Relations Act.
Exactly. And the policy is deliberately ambiguous on whether the U.S. would actually militarily intervene if China invaded. The idea is to deter both a Chinese invasion and a Taiwanese declaration of independence.
It's a high-wire act, truly. Trying to keep both sides guessing, maintain a fragile balance.
Can we think of an analogy for the alliance network?
Yeah, maybe think of the U.S. alliance network in the Indo-Pacific like a carefully built wall.
Okay.
If a foundational brick, like Taiwan, is violently removed from that wall, the entire structure could be compromised. It could lead to a cascade of instability as allies question the whole system's integrity.
And for the global norms part.
Maybe think of it like this. The U.S. sees defending Taiwan's de facto autonomy as upholding a critical global code of conduct for how nations interact. Ignoring a blatant violation here could set a dangerous precedent elsewhere. A bit like ignoring a red light, it could encourage widespread disregard for traffic laws, but on a global scale.
Got it. And these big principles aren't just abstract ideas, are they? They play out in real time. Recent events show the constant friction points, that delicate balancing act.
Constantly. Let's look at some of the specific incidents.
Okay, let's turn to recent diplomatic and military incidents. These events really highlight the ongoing tension, the delicate balance both sides are constantly trying to manage.
Yeah, and what's illuminating here is how even seemingly small incidents can escalate quickly, or at least reveal the underlying pressure points.
Like that visit by U.S. senators. AP News reported on August 29, 2025, Senators Roger Wicker, he chairs the Senate Armed Services Committee, and Deb Fischer, both Republicans, went to Taipei. High-level meetings.
Right, and their statements weren't exactly subtle.
No. Senator Wicker said, "A thriving democracy is never fully assured," and emphasized enhancing worldwide peace by supporting Taiwan. And Senator Fischer highlighted China's unacceptable threats and called Taiwan a respected and indispensable part of our global economy. She urged wise investment to strengthen deterrence. These are clear messages.
Very clear. And China's reaction was, well, predictable but forceful. Swift and forceful. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Guo Jikun formally protested, calling it an act that undermines China's sovereignty and territorial integrity and sends a gravely wrong signal to the separatist Taiwan independence forces.
Same playbook.
It's a consistent line, yeah. And it's always exacerbated by the fact that the U.S. is Taiwan's biggest arms supplier, tanks, missiles, F-16 upgrades. China sees these sales as violating prior commitments every single time.
But the dynamic isn't just about confrontation. There are also moments that look like, well, maybe concessions.
That's interesting, too. The Institute for the Study of War, ISW, reported August 1st, 2025, that the U.S. actually denied Taiwanese President Ching-te permission to visit New York.
Really?
Yeah. And, maybe more significantly, lifted certain tech export controls on advanced chips for the PRC.
Wow.
Why? Well, these were reportedly concessions, maybe aimed at facilitating groundwork for a potential Trump-Xi summit. That was the speculation.
Oh, okay. Diplomatic maneuvering.
Exactly. And Beijing likely reads these decisions as the U.S. being willing to concede on critical issues, which could embolden them to demand more limits on U.S.-Taiwan contact.
Like testing the waters.
Kind of. ISW cited a previous example, a canceled meeting between Taiwan's defense minister and a U.S. undersecretary of defense. It suggests China might be leveraging its strategic importance, maybe its economic leverage too, like with rare earth minerals the U.S. needs, to extract these concessions. Subtle pressure.
And Taiwan isn't just sitting back, right? They're making their own moves.
Definitely not passive.
Yeah.
ISW also reported that same day, August 1st, 2025, that Taiwan's foreign minister, Lin Xiaolong, made an unpublicized private visit to Japan.
Oh, interesting. Unpublicized.
Yeah, visited the World Expo in Osaka, Taiwan's de facto embassy in Tokyo. And he met with members of the Japan ROC Diet Members Consultative Council, that's a cross-party group in Japan, focused on promoting ties with Taiwan.
So strengthening ties quietly.
Seems like it. And the PRC, predictably, reacted strongly. Official complaints filed, calling it an illegitimate visit, anti-China separatist activities. And they reiterated that Taiwan question is at the core of the PRC's core interests, unwavering.
Did Japan say anything?
Interestingly, no. The Japanese Foreign Ministry didn't publicly comment. They stuck to their long-standing practice of not engaging with Taiwanese officials at the executive level, which dates back to 1971. It shows the delicate tightrope allies have to walk.
Yeah, definitely. And what about politics inside Taiwan? That plays a role too, doesn't it?
Hugely. In July 2025, the opposition party, the Kuomintang or KMT, their legislators successfully resisted mass recall votes.
Okay, what does that signify?
Well, ISW suggests it likely reflects public frustration with political instability more than a big surge in support for the KMT itself. But the outcome has real implications. The failed recalls mean the KMT can continue obstructing President Lai's agenda. And his agenda, as we know, is focused on strengthening Taiwan's defenses against the PRC.
So internal politics makes defense build-up harder.
It can, yeah. And Beijing, of course, quickly framed the failed votes as a popular rejection of the ruling DPP and President Lai. They used it to amplify their criticisms. It gives Beijing a convenient narrative to exploit, making it harder for Taiwan to present that united front.
Wow. So these diplomatic, military, political dances, they're all happening against this backdrop of incredibly high economic stakes and a rapidly shifting military balance.
Precisely. Which brings us to those current practices. #3, current practices.
Okay, let's dive into current practices, and we absolutely have to start with the chip factor. Taiwan's indispensable economic engine. This isn't just economics anymore, is it? For both superpowers, it's national security.
That's exactly right. At its heart, Taiwan's dominant role in producing advanced semiconductors makes it this unparalleled economic powerhouse. But that very dominance also makes it a critical, almost unprecedented vulnerability for the entire global technology supply chain. We're essentially talking about a single point of failure that impacts almost everything.
And the scale is just astounding. Taiwan's Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, TSMC, they alone produce an estimated 90% of the world's most advanced microchips.
90%. Just let that sink in. The bleeding edge stuff, the most powerful chips, overwhelmingly come from this one company on one island.
And these aren't just any chips. These are the fundamental components in nearly everything modern. Your smartphone, cloud data centers, new cars, fighter jets.
Cutting-edge AI development relies heavily on them, too.
Right. They are literally everywhere, the bedrock of the digital age.
And this incredible concentration creates this profound paradox. Taiwan is, as you said, economically indispensable and militarily vulnerable.
Yeah.
It's not an exaggeration to call it a single point of failure for the world's most advanced tech infrastructure.
Right.
If anything seriously disrupted that supply chain, the global economy, technological progress, it would face an unprecedented crisis, potentially catastrophic.
And U.S. leaders are acutely aware of this.
Oh, intensely aware. They worry constantly that losing Taiwan to China wouldn't just shift economic tides against them, but could fundamentally alter the entire global economic order.
How so?
Their fear is China would basically reorder the region, maybe reducing the U.S.'s role to primarily supplying raw materials, rather than being a leader in advanced manufacturing innovation and controlling critical tech. A major power shift.
So in response, the U.S. is pushing these de-risking strategies pretty hard.
Aggressively. It's a multi-pronged approach. Export controls to limit China's access to certain tech.
Right.
Encouraging domestic production that's onshoring. Shifting production to allied countries, ally shoring. And fostering joint production initiatives.
But these are massive undertakings, right? Complex, expensive.
Incredibly so. You're talking about rebuilding highly specialized, globally integrated supply chains that took decades to create. It's a huge lift.
Can we use an analogy here?
Sure. Think of Taiwan's chip foundries like the world's most sophisticated digital brain factory. If that factory suddenly shut down, the entire global technological body, communications, defense, finance, everything would cease to function properly, almost immediately.
Wow. Or maybe, like the advanced chip supply is the super specialized fuel injection system for the global economy.
That works too. And Taiwan is essentially the sole manufacturer of this critical system. Any disruption there stalls industries worldwide. The ripple effects are incredibly hard to even fully calculate.
It's fascinating, and it leads to another knowledge gap, doesn't it? What are the actual economic and political incentives being offered to Taiwan and other U.S. allies to really participate in this ally shoring?
That's a great question.
And how effective are these incentives in genuinely changing the reliance on Taiwan, a reliance built over decades? It's a high-stakes dance of incentives, national security, geopolitics, unfolding right now.
Absolutely. And this incredible economic dependency, this vulnerability, it fuels that frantic military buildup and strategic positioning we see.
Which leads us right into the next critical area, the evolving military landscape, military balance and scenarios. All right, next up, the evolving military landscape, military balance and scenarios. This is where the potential for conflict and the deterrence around it becomes incredibly real.
The military situation around Taiwan is, simply put, incredibly dynamic. China's rapidly modernizing its forces on an unprecedented scale. While Taiwan is proactively developing these highly asymmetric defense strategies, and all of this is happening under the constant watchful eye and sometimes intervention of the U.S. and its allies. It's a high-stakes, real-time chess match. Constant calculation.
Let's start with China's PLA modernization. What are we seeing there?
Well, reports from DW News, Global Flashpoint, they highlight China's massive investment. They've built the world's largest navy, at least by whole count, significantly expanded their missile forces, and crucially improved their joint command capabilities.
So it's not just about numbers anymore.
Not at all. It's about developing sophisticated, integrated capabilities that directly challenge the regional power balance.
And their main objective, militarily speaking.
David Sachs explained it well. It's implementing anti-accessoria denial, or A2AD.
Right, A2AD.
This strategy is explicitly designed to keep the United States out of the region during a conflict, essentially preventing the U.S. from effectively defending its allies, like Taiwan.
Making it too risky for the U.S. to get involved.
Precisely. And we see clear examples of this ambition. Advanced assets like their third aircraft carrier, the Fujian, biggest ship in the Chinese Navy, shows their growing blue water power projection capabilities.
Okay, so how is Taiwan responding to this massive buildup right on its doorstep?
Well, the Global Taiwan Institute notes they're shifting towards these asymmetric porcupine tactics.
Porcupine tactics, meaning spiky and hard to handle.
Exactly. The core idea is to make any invasion attempt so extraordinarily costly and difficult for Beijing that the political and human price becomes unacceptably high.
How do they do that?
Leveraging mobile missiles, mines, drones, boosting civil defense, making their command and control C2 really resilient so they can keep fighting even under heavy attack.
And we saw this in action during their big exercise, Hong Kong 2025.
We did. Their largest annual training event, July 9th to 18th. And this year's was notably more ambitious.
How so?
For one, it was double the length, 10 days, allowed for a much broader range of complex scenarios. They even included extensive gray zone simulations. That's simulating those coercive actions below outright war, like PRC Coast Guard and militia operations near Taiwan's islands. ROC Navy practiced defensive deployments against that.
So practicing for real-world harassment.
Exactly. And preparatory deployments were big, too. Army engineers built anti-landing obstacles on potential invasion beaches, physically preparing the ground.
What about new weapons?
That was significant. Live fire and testing of newly acquired U.S.-made M1A2T tanks. And for the first time publicly, HIMARS high-mobility artillery rocket systems.
HIMARS, like in Ukraine.
The very same. They have a 300-kilometer range. That means they could realistically hit Fujian province on the mainland, threatening invasion staging areas. A big deterrent message.
Wow.
Plus, they tested extended-range Xiongfeng III supersonic anti-ship missiles. Showing off new long-range capabilities sends a clear signal.
And they drilled coastal defense, too.
Heavy emphasis on it. Defending key areas like the Tamsui River mouth outside Taipei, a potential invasion route. They practiced using blocking chains with explosives, fortified landing sites with HESCO barriers, barbed wire, tank ditches. Really granular defense planning.
Sounds intense. What about cities and airports?
Also covered. Simulated defense of major airports like Taiyuan and Songshan from airborne assault. Extensive urban combat drills right in Taipei.
Like using the subway.
Yeah, using the metro for rapid troop deployment, practicing closing bridges with obstacles, using reconnaissance drones, definitely learning lessons from conflicts like Ukraine.
And they involve civilians and reservists more.
Significantly. Integrated critical infrastructure defense oil tanks, power plants, even on outlying islands like Matsu and Penghu.
Yeah.
Called up 22,000 reservists, deployed them in brigade-size units, explicitly integrated the Wanan and Minnan civil defense drills. It signals a whole-of-society approach.
They even simulated escorting Allied ships, like a U.S. carrier.
They did. Simulated escorting Allied vessels, including a U.S. Navy carrier group, into Hualien port, practicing for potential international support scenarios.
So the key takeaway from Hong Kong 2025 is?
Well, while there's always more to do, it represents a really significant positive step towards more rigorous, realistic training for Taiwan's defense. It sends an unequivocal message. Invading will be extremely costly and difficult. It changes the calculus for Beijing.
Okay, now what about the U.S. and its allies? They're not just watching.
Not at all. The U.S. maintains that forward military presence, conducts regular Taiwan Strait transits, asserting freedom of navigation, engages in extensive partner exercises.
And working more closely with Japan and the Philippines.
Definitely. Extended military cooperation, including access to bases in the northern Philippines, strategically near that Bashi Strait choke point.
Right.
And sometimes these joint exercises get pretty pointed, like sinking old Chinese-built ships as a clear message to Beijing about capabilities.
A not so subtle message.
Not subtle at all. Plus, the US, UK, Australia held the largest ever Talisman Sabre exercises in 2025. 19 nations involved, showcasing new capabilities like precision strike missiles, Typhoon systems, a very clear emphasis on Indo-Pacific security, and building coalitions.
And China's reaction to this coalition building?
Sharp criticism, as you expect, accusing the U.S. and allies of unwarranted accusations, political manipulation, trying to divide partners. They clearly see these alliances as a direct challenge.
This brings us back to China's own escalating coercive activities, the constant pressure.
It's relentless. ISW reported August 1st, 2025, PLA aerial incursions into Taiwan's ADZ hit their highest level in the past year, near daily occurrences.
And that's not just harassment, right?
No, it's deliberate. Meant to degrade Taiwan's threat awareness, exhaust their pilots and crews, probe response times, all without triggering open conflict. Constant pressure.
And on the sea, too, with the Coast Guard.
Yeah, the China Coast Guard, CCG, conducted 4 known incursions into Kinmen's restricted waters in July 2025. They call it routine law enforcement, but it looks a lot like rehearsals for a blockade.
Desensitizing Taiwan, making a real blockade seem less surprising.
That seems to be the goal, cultivating surprise. We also saw the PRC in Vietnam holding their first combined army exercises in July 2025. They're getting closer amid U.S. tariffs, which risks disrupting the growing U.S.-Vietnam defense partnership. Another complex dynamic.
So if things were to escalate, what's the likely path? Not necessarily full invasion first.
Most plausible scenarios, according to global Flashpoint analysis, start below all-out invasion. Things like air or naval blockades, targeted strikes on infrastructure, major cyber or space attacks, maybe seizing offshore islets.
Testing the waters, testing resolve.
Exactly. Designed to test resolve, impose costs, without immediately triggering that wider full-scale war. It's a dangerous game of graduated escalation.
It's truly a complex, constantly shifting military situation, and so deeply tied to politics, both domestic and international.
Which we absolutely need to unpack next.
Okay, let's look at internal dynamics, politics on all sides. Because the political scenes within Taiwan, China, and the U.S., plus their regional relationships, they profoundly influence where this whole thing is heading.
Yeah, and what's truly remarkable, and maybe sometimes lost in the big superpower narrative, is Taiwan's own vibrant democracy. It's transformed from authoritarian rule into one of the strongest democracies in Asia. Free elections, free press, civil liberties. They were the first in Asia to legalize same-sex marriage. It highlights their progressive path.
But internally, how do Taiwanese people feel about the situation with China?
Well, polls consistently show the majority prefer to maintain the status quo. But the debate on how to do that is highly polarized. And it's crucial for you listening to understand. Many Taiwanese feel their voice gets drowned out by the U.S.-China rivalry. They feel like a pawn in a bigger game. There's this tension between external pressures and their own internal desires.
And the political parties reflect this, the DPP versus the KMT.
They do. The ruling Democratic Progressive Party, the DPP, generally seen as progressive, got reelected for a third term this year, 2025. They vowed to maintain the tense status quo and strengthen defenses.
But the opposition, the KMT.
They recently prevailed in those recall votes we mentioned, which allows them to keep obstructing President Li's agenda, especially on defense strengthening. This internal political friction makes it harder for Taiwan to present a fully united front. Beijing knows this and exploits it.
Okay, let's look across the strait. China's nationalism, Xi Jinping's leadership. Huge factors.
Enormous, decisive factors. President Xi is widely seen as having this impatience to bring Taiwan back. It's framed as critical for national rejuvenation, overcoming that century of humiliation.
He sees himself as transformative.
Very much so, like other powerful authoritarian leaders globally. And this belief significantly shapes Beijing's risk tolerance regarding Taiwan, how far they're willing to push.
That quote from Victor Gao really stuck with me.
Which one?
No one will be able to block the peaceful reunification of China or the non-peaceful reunification of China.
Yeah, it encapsulates that unwavering stance. And this rhetoric is backed by intense efforts within the CCP to ensure absolute political loyalty in the military.
How are they doing that?
Things like a PLA daily newspaper series emphasizing subordination to the party, new guidance for political officers. This follows significant purges since March 2023. Military lawmakers, defense industry execs removed for alleged inadequate commitment to Xi Jinping or corruption. Xi is ensuring tight control.
And finally, U.S. policy and its regional game.
Also critical. U.S. deterrence policy generally spans administrations, Republican or Democrat. Congress is usually pretty hawkish in Taiwan. That senator's visit showed that.
But there's tension within the U.S., too. Industry concerns.
Definitely. U.S. industry is deeply concerned about supply chain shocks, especially with semiconductors. So Washington balances security concerns with these major economic realities. It's not always a unified front internally.
And China tries to exploit divisions among U.S. allies, like with South Korea.
Actively. They exploit U.S.-South Korea trade and defense disagreements. For instance, South Korea's unification minister reportedly considered scaling back joint U.S.-SK military exercises after a North Korean statement. That plays right into China's hands. And China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi explicitly urged South Korea to maintain its autonomy, oppose decoupling from China, implicitly trying to pull Seoul away from its close U.S. alliance.
This raises another important knowledge gap, doesn't it? What's the long-term impact of these internal political divisions within allied nations, coupled with external pressures from China, on the stability of alliances like the U.S.-South Korea one?
It's a major strategic challenge. How resilient are these alliances when actively targeted?
Yeah.
And the U.S. adds pressure, too. Asking South Korea to expand its mutual defense treaty commitments beyond the Korean Peninsula, maybe meaning support in the U.S.-China fight, and increase defense spending. This challenges the South Korean president's desire for better PRC relations, creates tough choices for leaders like him.
So all these current domestic politics in Taiwan, China's nationalism, U.S. policy, regional maneuvering, they all feed into the situation of rising tension?
Directly, making Taiwan such an incredibly sensitive, volatile spot right now.
So why is all this happening right now? Let's talk about the accelerating pressure cooker. Why tension is rising now?
Yeah, at its core, the reason tension is up now is this convergence. Dramatically increased military activity, intensifying tech competition, and really aggressive strategic positioning from all sides.
A perfect storm.
Kind of feels like it. A perfect storm of factors converging right around Taiwan, pushing tensions to levels we haven't seen before, or at least not sustained like this.
We're certainly seeing a discernible and worrying increase in the operational tempo.
No question.
More frequent Chinese military activity near the island, those daily PLA flights, the Coast Guard incursions near Kinmen. Then on Taiwan's side, larger, more ambitious drills like Hong Kong 2025 and faster U.S. ally coordination, joint exercises across the region. Everyone seems to be on heightened alert, constantly pushing boundaries.
And that chip factor we talked about, it's rapidly accelerating what people are calling tech decoupling.
Right.
Both major blocs, the U.S. and China, now explicitly view advanced semiconductors not just as economic goods, but as critical national security assets.
That's a fundamental shift.
It is, from pure economics to national security. And that deeply intensifies the competition, drives mistrust, makes the stakes feel even higher for both sides.
So each side is aggressively trying to lock in advantages militarily, economically, without accidentally tripping the wire into full-blown conflict.
Exactly. Which creates this incredibly volatile environment, constant probing, counter-probing, every move met with a response. And the potential for miscalculation, for someone to push just a little too far,
Yeah.
it feels incredibly high right now.
Can we use those analogies again? The poker game.
Yeah, it's like a high-stakes poker game.
Yeah.
Both players keep raising the bets, trying to intimidate the other, gain an edge, but neither side really wants to go all in and risk losing everything. Yet the pressure to escalate just keeps building. It makes the game inherently dangerous.
Or the tug-of-war.
That works too.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine both teams pulling harder and harder. The rope is stretching, visibly straining.
Yeah.
Each forceful pull from one side is met with an equally determined pull from the other, relentlessly increasing the overall strain and, crucially, the risk of that rope just snapping, leading to chaos.
Okay. So with tensions this high, the absolutely critical question becomes, what can actually be done? How do we step back from the brink? What are the pathways to stability? #tag for future implications.
Hmm.
All right, as we look ahead, the crucial question, what would avert disaster? Let's call this section Pathways to Stability.
The big picture here is that de-escalation, finding long-term stability in the Taiwan Strait, it demands a truly multifaceted approach. There's no silver bullet.
No easy fix.
Definitely not. It involves clear, unambiguous communication, robust resilience by design, smart, credible deterrence, and maybe surprisingly, a degree of political flexibility from everyone involved.
Okay, let's break that down. Clear communication first.
Absolutely essential. Establishing clearly understood red lines, what each side considers completely unacceptable, and creating robust, always open crisis hotlines.
To prevent accidents, miscalculations.
Exactly. In such a high-tension environment, even a small misunderstanding could be catastrophic. So reliable communication channels are vital.
Okay, then resilience by design. What does that mean?
It means proactive measures to strengthen critical infrastructure, making societies less vulnerable to coercion or attack.
Like diversifying the chip supply, getting away from that single point of failure.
That's a huge part of it. But also hardening things like undersea cables, ports, power grids against potential attacks.
Yeah.
We saw Hong Kong 2025 address some of this. Building this resilience makes trying to coerce Taiwan less attractive, potentially less effective.
Makes sense. Now the nuance part. Deterrence with off-ramps.
Yeah, this is key. Maintaining credible defense postures is necessary to deter aggression, obviously.
Yeah, right.
But that must be paired with offering genuine economic and political incentives for de-escalation, providing pathways for both sides to back down without losing face.
Losing face is a huge factor, isn't it?
Enormous in international relations, especially for powerful nations with strong nationalist narratives. You have to give leaders a way out that doesn't look like surrender.
And this ties into domestic politics. Leaders need space to compromise.
Critically. Leaders on all sides, Taipei, Beijing, Washington, they need to actively cultivate the domestic political space to be able to compromise without seeming like they're capitulating to external pressure.
Which is incredibly hard when nationalism is running high.
Extremely difficult. But it's essential for successful diplomacy. Otherwise, leaders get trapped by their own rhetoric.
Can we use an analogy here, the forest fire one?
Yeah, preventing a forest fire requires more than just having fire brigades ready. That's your deterrence. You also need to proactively clear brush to reduce fuel that's building resilience. You need clear warning systems, those hotlines. And you need to create fire breaks, the off-ramps, to contain any accidental sparks before they become an uncontrollable inferno.
I like that. Or the bridge analogy.
That works too. Building pathways to avert disaster is like designing a really sturdy bridge over a dangerous chasm.
Needs strong foundation.
That's your resilience. Needs clear signs for safe passage, red lines, hotlines to prevent missteps.
And emergency exits.
Exactly, the off-ramps. If something goes wrong, you need a way to get off the bridge safely, preventing total collapse.
Got it. So as we bring this deep dive towards a close, it's just abundantly clear that Taiwan is way more than just an island. It's a profound symbol, a strategic flashpoint, holds immense global significance.
Truly at the crossroads of our century.
Which brings us neatly to the crossroads of the 21st century, our bottom line for today.
Yeah, the ultimate insight here, I think, is that Taiwan stands as this unique convergence point where incredibly powerful geopolitical, economic, military, and deeply identity-driven forces all collide. And this unique confluence makes it arguably the most critical and potentially explosive flashpoint on Earth right now.
It's truly remarkable how many vital elements converge right there. National identity, Beijing's unfinished business, Taiwan's democratic hopes,
Crucial geography.
formidable military power projection.
And that indispensable semiconductor economy.
It's a nexus of global forces, all concentrated in one small, vulnerable place.
And both Beijing and Washington view Taiwan as absolutely pivotal to their respective visions for the 21st century's global order.
Right. For China, it's national rejuvenation, territorial integrity, overcoming history.
And for the U.S., it's maintaining alliances, ensuring economic stability, upholding that rules-based order it champions.
And because of this deeply rooted importance each side places on Taiwan, neither China nor the U.S. feels it can afford to back down, not without suffering huge costs to their global standing, their domestic legitimacy.
The stakes just feel too high for both of them to yield easily.
So this deep unwillingness to yield, combined with the convergence of all these critical factors, historical, economic, military, political, combativity, it makes Taiwan the most consequential.
And therefore, potentially combustible.
Flashpoint on the planet. Its future will undeniably shape the global order for decades.
No question about it.
Which leads us to our final provocative thought for you, our listener, to consider. Given Taiwan's vibrant democratic development and the repeated desire expressed by its people to maintain the status quo, how can the global community, the U.S., its allies, everyone ensure that Taiwan's own self-determination, its own voice, isn't overshadowed or dismissed amidst this intense superpower rivalry that defines its very existence?
It's a tough question.
It is, and it's a question worth exploring much, much further as this incredibly complex situation continues to evolve.
Wow, what a deep dive this has been into such a critical global issue. We've really tried to peel back the intricate layers of why Taiwan has become such a focal point for China and the United States.
We covered a lot of ground, tracing the deep historical threads of Beijing's claims, exploring Washington's strategic and economic imperatives,
And revealing the world's profound dependency on Taiwan's cutting-edge chip industry. That part is just staggering.
It really is. We also dissected the current military and political maneuvers driving these rising tensions and looked at those critical pathways to stability that might, just might, avert disaster. It's a truly complex web of interests, ambitions, and deeply rooted fears.
Absolutely. This makes Taiwan a crucible, really, for the future of global power and the international order itself. We truly hope this deep dive has given you a clearer, more nuanced understanding of the profound stakes involved, and perhaps sparked even more curiosity to keep learning about this crucial region, because the conversation around Taiwan is constantly evolving.
Staying informed is absolutely key. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.